Hi Kipsters, it's Miss Peters, and today I'm going to read you a story called A Path of Stars by Anne Sibley O'Brien. Last winter, before the phone call came, my grandmother, would tell me stories. When I was a girl in Cambodia, she said, living in the house by the river, we grew lemongrass just like this. She pointed to the stalk she was chopping for our sour soup. I took a carrot from the pile for my baby brother Kiri to chew on. All around the house were trees full of coconuts, mangoes, and oranges, Lokye said as the soup simmered. The air smelled of flowers, hibiscus, and roses. Oh, Dara, the air was so sweet. Lokye smiled, her eyes shining like stars. The rice bubbled in the cooker. The steam jiggled the lid open, closed, open, closed. A story as warm and happy as Lokye's. At dinner, we ate the soup and laughed at Kiri's messy face. My grandmother's story went on. In the evenings, I sat with my brother, your Lokta, in the coconut tree. We would pick and share a mango, listening to the crickets as the moon rose. Then we would play hide and seek in the moon's light with our brothers and sisters, our cousins, and our friends. From the photograph on the wall, Lokta's smiling eyes looked as if he too were remembering. In the early spring, before the phone call came, Lokye told more stories as I helped her cook for Cambodian New Year. When I was a girl in Cambodia, she said, we went to a temple. A real temple, not just a house like here in America, but we ate these same foods, just the way my mother taught me to make them. I helped Lokye serve the feast at the temple. Everybody loved her chicken and her rice cakes and banana leaves. People wore their most beautiful clothing and sat on the floor before the monk, listening and praying. As we rode home, our breath-making mist in the cold air, Lokye pointed at the dark sky. In America, it is so cold that the stars glitter like diamonds. But in Cambodia, she said, the air is so soft and warm that the stars glow like fireflies. At night, our family gathered on the wooden platform in the yard. Our father built a fire on the ground to smoke away the mosquitoes. And what do you think we did, sitting under the stars all together? She knew I loved this part of the story. We watched the stars. I couldn't help smiling because my name, Dara, means star. Lokye was the one who had named me. The grandparents would point at the sky and show us the chicken with all her baby chicks, Lokye told me, and the long line of stars called the crocodile. My brother kept asking questions, wanting to learn all he could about the stars. But the rest of us fell asleep, listening to star stories. I smiled and pointed to Kiri, sound asleep, in his car seat. Later in the spring, before the phone call came, Lokye watched me and Kiri after school. When your mother was just a baby, as small as your brother is now, Lokye said, there was a day when the birds stopped singing, a day when the soldiers came. She sat still, and her hand stopped sewing. She didn't see me or my brother. She was deep inside a sad, sad story. After a time, she raised her head and began again. 4 years later, we ran from the war. By then, I had only 2 people left, my brother, who is your Lokta, and my little daughter, who is your mother. We took turns carrying her on our back, just the way you are carrying your brother right now. Lokta and I held on to the only treasures we had been able to save, your mother and pictures of those who had died. So many people, our parents, our brothers and sisters, my husband, even Lokta's wife. We hid in the jungle by day and walked at night by the light of the stars. Lokta read the stars like a map, finding our way west. We prayed so hard to the Buddha, pray on, please help us. And we asked our lost family to guide us. Their spirits brought us to the border of Thailand, where we found safety at a camp. This summer, before the phone call came, she told another story. In the camp, we had gardens, and we grew lots of vegetables, squash just like that, and she pointed to a bright green zucchini, But no flowers. Oh, Dara, how we missed those flowers. It was so crowded and so noisy in the camp, but we had a small space in a long house, your mother, Lokta, and I. We made a tiny altar for the Buddha and put the pictures of our family next to it, to remember them in our prayers. She watched as I rolled a ball to my brother. Your mother was happy to be with other children. It was the first time in her life that it was safe to play. I helped Lokye and my mother grab vegetables from our garden, peppers, tomatoes, green beans, spinach, and onions. As we carried the basket home, Lokye said, when your mother was a girl, she and I came to America, to Maine, in the cold, cold winter, but Lokta went back to Cambodia, hoping to find anyone still alive from our family. He found some of our cousins, and he married a new wife and made a new home there. Someday, I will take you to Cambodia to meet Lokta and his new family. That's how Lokye's stories ended every time. I imagined flying to Cambodia on a big silver plane, seeing the house by the river and meeting Lokta and his family. Then last week, just as the autumn air was turning cool, a phone call came. My cousins calling from Cambodia told Lokye that Lokta had died. All the light went out of Lokye's eyes. She slipped like a whisper into her bed. She wouldn't speak and she wouldn't get up, no matter what Mama did. The house is silent now. The kitchen is empty and quiet and dark. The rice in the cooker is cold. Tonight, when Papa came home, he brought takeout from the Thai restaurant. When Mama took her a plate, Lokye wouldn't eat a bite. Lokta died, but it seems as if he took Lokye with him too. Out in the garden, I look up at the stars and say a prayer. Prayan, please help me. I don't know what to do. And I say a prayer to Lokta. Help, Lokye. The breeze stirs the leaves of the plants. My eyes spot a pale, perfect rosebud shining in the starlight. I think of how much Lokye loves roses. Nearby, one large tomato hangs heavy on the vine. I pick them both. I step into the still dark kitchen and flip the light switch. I get a chair to stand on, then run water into a jar for the rose. I get a tray from the counter and spoon some rice into a small bowl. It is cold, but maybe Lokye will eat some. I put the rice, the tomato, the rose, and 2 spoons on the tray. In the living room, Mama helps me take the photograph of Lokta off the wall. I add it to the tray. Lokye, I call from the doorway. It's me, Dara. My voice is unsteady. Lokye doesn't answer. The tray is heavy, so I push the door open and slip into her dark, silent room. I put the tray down on the bed and climb up beside it. Lokye stirs and turns. She looks at me with flat, dull eyes. Lokta, please, help me, I think. I hold out the yellow rose. Lokye's hand comes up slowly and takes the flower. Lokye, I say, can we say a prayer for Lokta? She looks at me for a long time, as if she's coming back from somewhere far, far away. She nods. I take Lokye's hand and guide her to the living room. We take the photograph of Lokta and put it on the wall in our shrine. We place the rose on the shelf next to the statue of the Buddha and light the incense for our prayer. Sitting before the shrine, we pray for the spirit of Lokta, that he may find peace. I climb back on the bed with Lokye to share cold rice and bites of fresh tomato. It drips down our chins. Lokye, I say, I will tell you a story. Someday, you and I and Mama and Papa and Kiri will all go back to visit Cambodia. We will fly on a big silver plane through the sky, through the stars, and we will find the house by the river and our family living there. We will pick mangoes from the tree and eat them. All around us, the air will smell of flowers. Lokye curves her hand along my cheek. My Dara, she says, my star. All right, and that's the end of A Path of Stars. I hope you enjoyed it, and click on more links of me and Miss Pakvasa reading more stories to celebrate Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Bye, Kipsters!